No time for a joke this week, Terry. It's rugby league, serious rugby league. Don't touch my foot.
Hey all, welcome back to another episode of Rugby League Outlaws, brought to you by our good friends at Top Sport, onelittlefootyfan.com.au and the Stubby Club. Don't forget to give them some love online.
Absolutely.
Dan.
Yes, Terry.
We've got some breaking rugby league news.
We do. It is funny because about 15 minutes ago you should have rocked up. You didn't, and it worked out to our advantage.
It did. It worked out perfectly. Now, I do not apologise for being late whatsoever. But breaking news, as per online social media, it's happening at the moment. Today, the Cronulla Sharks led a boycott of the NRL's official campaign to launch the season. The NRL official photographer turned up for photos and interviews, only to be informed by Wade Graham that the players weren't turning up, and it's expected that players of the other clubs are going to follow suit. And this is all due to the fact that the NRL was late in the collective bargaining agreement, which has left some players off contract in the lurch and not even being able to train with teams.
No, it's as you said, it's literally breaking news. It's just we read it literally 2 minutes before we hit record. So hopefully by the time this is out, there'll be some more details. But Cronulla, what a club! It's just standing by our laurels.
Do you find it a bit childish?
A little bit, but if it was the Tigers, I would have gone in hard, full disclosure. I do, yes. I have always been of the opinion that these things should be handled behind. But I mean, if they're going to make a point, this is a good way to do it. Yeah,
I agree. It was a joke that the NRL weren't able to get the CBA out on time for the season. This is also in support of the NRLW as well. But yeah, I don't know if boycotting the launch and the interviews, which only hurts the fans.
Look, it does, and ultimately no one's going to notice except that there's a headline written about it. Because if Cronulla didn't do the interviews, would you have known?
No.
I wouldn't have known, and we're two of the biggest Cronulla fans in the world. So, look, it's out there now. I do think that the Rugby League Players Association came out and said, hey, we hadn't agreed to this a couple of hours after it was announced as official. So it doesn't sound like it's done as far as I'm concerned. And Cronulla haven't signed a player yet for the NRLW, which says to me it's not done. So I can see why they're doing it. Whether I support it or not, I'm more in the camp of yes. But ultimately, it's player interviews.
Totally a bit childish.
Yeah, it's okay.
Now, what a day of rugby league we've had as well. It was confirmed this morning that Lockie Miller is all but on his way up the F3 to Newcastle.
It's not official yet, but by the time this comes out...
Yeah, they reckon in the next week or two it'll be done. Cronulla are looking at their options for player swaps and also who's available, who can come in and fill in for Lockie Miller now. But look, this is an opportunity for Lockie Miller that Cronulla just can't give him. It's a 3-year deal. It's the opportunity to go and lock down that fullback spot now at Newcastle. He makes them a little bit better.
He does.
I can't help but feel that by the end of the season, he'll either be on the wing or back in New South Wales Cup when Ponga's the fullback. Or maybe they'll switch and he might get a game at number 6.
Yep.
But look, it's the best thing for him. It's the 3-year deal, as we said, that Cronulla couldn't compete with. It's also the money as well. Now, speaking of money, like you look at Lockie Miller, he's debuted late. He's travelled all over the world in playing rugby sevens. I personally am glad that Cronulla have taken this stance of not overpaying for him to keep him.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
But not only that, not promising what we can't deliver for him. It's very evident that we're going to have a shootout between Will Kennedy and young Cade Dykes, with Kay Liro in the background as well, and we've also got Sateli Torkamo.
Yeah, plenty options.
Yeah, so for mine, it's now imperative that Cronulla don't sign that release paper until we get something back, or we know what we're getting back.
I've softened massively on this in the last week. Now, we had a discussion during the week, over the weekend. It's nice to hear from you, Terry.
It was.
We're not friends off camera.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we are. Best of friends.
Yeah.
But back to very serious rugby league news. I've softened. This time last week, I was like, nah, not unless we get something back. Now, okay, look, as you said, he's 28. This is a guy who has got an opportunity to go up there, play fullback, which he probably won't do at Cronulla, let's be totally honest, on good money, sets his family up. Could you be the guy who said, nah, you can't do that. You can't provide for your family because they haven't got any players? Because that Newcastle roster, it's no good.
I could be if Newcastle aren't willing to play ball in some way, shape or form. There has to be something coming back to Cronulla. It's of no benefit to Cronulla Like, I'm sorry if I'm going to sound harsh on this, but Lockie Miller signed that 2-year deal.
Yeah.
Right.
And he would be playing in France if not.
Yeah. So he signed the 2-year deal. Now, yes, he's had a really, really strong debut, strong couple of games, even on the wing and at fullback. He had some shockers as well. Was brilliant in the New South Wales Cup.
Yeah.
Which is probably the level that Newcastle roster is at the moment.
Completely fair.
There are some good young players in Newcastle though. So something does need to come back for us, and that could take that extra week or two. Now, people are saying, oh, well, he can't train with Newcastle and he can't learn their system. Not Cronulla's problem.
No, that I am staunchly in
Not Craig
agreement
Fitzgibbon's problem. Not our new coach, Michael Ennis's problem.
Yep.
No one's problem but Newcastle. If they really, really want him, you send Dominic Young down the freeway and you give him to us right now.
Yeah, you're completely fair. I would take that swap tomorrow. I just want to address quickly, though, because this time, well, late last year, I said I had Lockie Miller as my number one. I want to retract that because Will Kennedy, I watched some highlights over the weekend because I miss rugby league so much. His rounds 1 to 6 were so far superior to anything Lockie Miller gave us. Now, I loved Miller in the back line. He's got speed we didn't have. That try against the Titans will be in Shark folklore. As you said, when he went back to New South Wales Cup, he was the best player in the competition. It wasn't even particularly close. Kyle Hero is probably the only argument I could throw up. A couple of Panthers players. But in terms of the Cronulla system, which is the hook around play, Miller couldn't do it.
Yep.
And no, that's not a shot at him. That's just what Kennedy's there for. Yes, Kennedy had a disgustingly bad final series. I think he's gone back. He's looked at that. You've seen he looks bigger in training. Yep. He and Trindle are smiling. Lots of photos online. I think that's good. I think Will Kennedy's going to be the number 1. And I think Cade Dykes is very easily our number 2.
And finally, another piece of news that came out today, the Penrith Panthers have released a statement saying that Stephen Crichton will not be at the club in 2024. Now, before I go and ask you for your thoughts on Stephen Crichton, I find it so cringy that clubs announce that players aren't re-signing with them.
Completely fair.
It's like the ex of yours that goes online and says, I just want to let you all know that Dan and I have separated.
Yeah, it's a attention, make the attention to me. Don't let him have his fun.
Yeah.
I think, though, that Stephen Crichton's manager deserves a pay rise.
Oh, yeah.
Because all the stories are that he's parcelled up to go to the Bulldogs for about $800K. Okay, that's good money. He gets what he wants. Manager's just thrown it out there, said, hey, he's definitely not re-signing. Other clubs like, we could probably make $1 million for a fullback.
Yeah, well, you've got to have a look. There's some clubs that come to mind immediately that need him. The Dolphins are screaming out for a marquee player.
Absolutely.
The Roosters are probably looking at the situation going, we need to get this answer from Joseph Suaalii to see what he's doing. The Dragons need something.
They do. Anything.
Yeah, and obviously, of course, there's the Bulldogs.
Yep.
Now, I would throw in that Cronulla have got Kennedy and Dykes, and you could easily say that Dykes is the heir apparent to Matt Moylan.
Yeah, which opens up.
So there's money there for.
Look, the West Tigers fullback, he's coming in, and most people are saying Charlie Staines is better than him, which says a lot. So I think this is genius move by Stephen Crichton, his management.
Yeah.
I think it's cringy from the Panthers, but it made that Peter Lang look ridiculous, and I'm all about that.
Absolutely. Dan.
Yes, mate.
Some news that happened while I was away on holidays, and I was not available on social media. We got some new rules.
We do some tweaks, not new rules, some tweaks.
All right, talk to me about these tweaks.
Look, let's run through them real quick because we're massively over time. Mm-hmm. The HOA, 18th man, which I think is a fantastic inclusion, especially where the world's going with concussions as we learn more about them. The protocol's changed. You no longer need 3 injuries, which I thought was overkill. Now it's only 2 failed HIAs to activate that 18th man. Love that rule. Player safety number 1. And, 3 HIAs is just...
Yeah, 3 is a bit too much. Now, going on to this, I read that the French First Division are naming 21-man squads. Mm-hmm. You got your 17 players, obviously, your 4 on the bench. Anyone who fails a HIA, someone's activated. So if they lose 4, they gain 4. If you lose 5, you're out of luck.
Yeah, look, that's too bad. I think that's ultimately where it's heading.
I think that's the way it's going to head as well, yeah.
I think at the moment, I know while the HIAs are tough, sometimes you see a guy get concussed, he comes back 15 minutes later. Sometimes you hear a little tap, and then they go on, they set a try up, and then they get hooked and they don't come back. Mm-hmm. You can't tell when a player's concussed, which is why the doctors are making the decisions and not us. But ultimately, I think that's where it's headed. Look, another tweak that I think is real good is that they're not going to just start sin binning blokes out of nowhere for repeated inside the 10s, they're going to give penalties. How many times last year, Dragons, did we see them give away penalty or 6 agains, whereas a penalty goal would have won or tied the game up in the last play?
That I don't care about the repeated 6 agains or the sin bins or whatever. The only rule that they need to tweak is in the final 5 minutes of the game, if it's a close game, 2 point, 4 point, whatever point game it is, just blow the penalty.
Discretion, right?
Just give the penalty. Not even discretion. If it's a close game, you've just got to give the penalty.
Yeah. Then you get players like the Storm laying on them, giving the penalties and the 2. And yes, I think you're right. I think if it's 2 points, you've got to give the penalty every time. I don't want to hear any talk 6 again, unless it's on the sideline. But that's where discretion comes in.
Even then, on the sideline, you've got to back the kickers these days.
Yeah, look, completely fair, unless you're Braden Trindle. The other one I like is that this, and when it happens 100 times every weekend, everyone runs off their line at a scrum. 6 again, sets the line, who cares? That's penalty now.
And it's not a differential penalty. Nope. It's not a short penalty.
It's penalty. So you kick it goal, you can kick touch, because penalties...
Or you can reset the scrum. Don't forget, if you reset the scrum, there's another penalty. It's a sin bin.
Sin bin. So I think that 30 metres you can chew off is real good. Really good. So one that's, I thought was the way it was anyways. The bunker can only intervene now if there's a reportable offence to cut down on interference, which, how many times did you see players, just wait a minute, or the ref be like, hold up, we're just checking upstairs. Now it's only on reportable offence.
And then this goes into what the ESL are trialling, that the bunker will look at it, and if there's no reportable offence, you're off for a couple of minutes.
I like that. I think that should have been the big tweak.
That should have been the absolute big tweak here. We need the bunker. The people are saying scrap the bunker. You only have to have a look in the 9s a couple of years ago when the Dragons player grounded the ball
Ramsey.
4 metres out of play, and it cost Penrith the
final.
The final.
Getting into the final.
And, if you had a decision like that,
the world will blow up. The social media would come in.
You need the video referee, but you don't need a video referee in there. You've got, you need to put more emphasis on the touch judges because they're the most useless jobs of all time. Like, you and I should be touch judges.
Yeah, we should be. We'd be good at that.
Yeah.
Now,
we just sit around and do nothing.
Well, yeah. Now, the tweak that I like most of all is that there's going to be no more of this. When you're on the line, you got one toe and you're 7 metres off. If you're really tall, both feet got to be behind the line now. That I like. I think that'll speed the game up considerably.
There needs to be a tweak though as well. Ban all Panthers fans from social media.
I like that. You can take that one. Now, the one I don't like. If the ball leaves your possession, rolls down your arm and you place it on, that's a try. As long as there's no separation.
The interpretation of that's going to be really different, but you've seen some tries where where the ball
it's circled or rotated.
Yeah, it rotates on there, but he still grips the ball, right? And what they've said is he hasn't regathered the possession, but he didn't lose the possession either, right? So if it rolls down to your elbow and it's a no try. But if you go to ground it and there's just a little bit, just give it.
Look, I agree.
Stop taking tries off people.
But this is going to cause chaos. There'll be one decision in the first couple of weeks, guarantee it, where everyone will look and under the old time, it'll be, he's clearly lost it. Under the new rules, look, it's probably a try. It will be chaos. And I'm here for it. But I don't like it. I think, it's probably going to happen.
I'm okay with it. Dan,
talk to me, Terry.
We're here to rag on the 4 worst teams of the competition.
Always makes us friends. And look, I just want to say, Terry, straight up, it's nothing personal. These teams just really suck.
Yeah. For mine, there are 4 standout teams that are going to do absolutely nothing in this competition, and I don't even know why they've re-registered.
Completely fair.
Yeah.
Again, though, I just want to press. It's nothing personal. Do not reply and say, you guys hate Yes, we hate everyone that was in the Sharks. Yeah. That's not news to anyone.
And we hate the Sharks as well.
Yeah, more than anyone. So just...
Don't take it personally, but if it offends you, whatever.
That's straight. Who's coming last, Terry? This. Now, look, we disagreed on a few of these, but we did...
We did not disagree on this one.
Not on this one, but later on. I just want to set the scene.
Yeah. This one here, it's pretty evident for mine. Now, last year we called the Cowboys to come last.
So don't take too much
notice. Yeah, don't take too much notice of us. But I am really confident this year They may not come last, but they're definitely in the bottom 4. They're my wooden spoon picks this year. It's the New Zealand Warriors.
Yes. Now, I just want to clarify that all the good stuff they did in COVID, we thank you.
Yeah, we love you.
But this is a terrible squad.
It's an awful roster.
Now, I've seen some people come out and seen Sean Johnson looking like an Adonis, saying...
But he looked buff and beautiful for Cronulla.
He always looks good. Sean Johnson is incapable of looking bad.
Like, he is one of the top 5 most handsome men on the planet. He has a body that anyone would die for.
Absolutely.
He's just 34.
He's just... We saw last year, in the last couple of weeks, where he was benched for a rookie, and it wasn't very good.
No.
So...
Yeah, the game's past him. Look, I'm telling you this now. If PVL ball was around in 2014 when it was peak Sean Johnson, the Warriors would have 3 championships.
Wushka. He's a genius player, and I love him. What he did for Cronulla, he got us to a final series that we didn't otherwise deserve.
That we didn't deserve. But he's a great human being. He's a great guy. But he's just not fit enough to lead this team anymore. They've got Tamari Martin back. He's going to go and play 5'8". Luke Metcalf will play fullback for him. It's just a dreadful team. Like I can't look at that squad and find anything positive from it. And the fact that they've gone and recruited Mitch Barnett and Dylan Walker, they deserve the spoon. Yeah,
it's hard to argue with that. I was actually going to bring that up. Now, on the positives, Chance Nickel-Clockstar is a great signing. If he ever reaches his potential, which I really hope he does, as a big fan of his, he could be something special in the centres. He might play fullback. I love Chance Nickel-Clockstar in the centres. Absolutely. Like, if we had the time over again, knowing that he was going to get a release, if he wanted to come to Sydney, I'd put him at left centre. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I sort of toyed whether to bring this up or not. Josh Curran, is in a bit of legal trouble, and there's every chance that he doesn't play this year. Mm-hmm. He's a great player. I don't really want to discuss what happened because I'm not around it, to be totally honest. I only remembered it 20 minutes before we hit record. But he's one of their best players, and if he's not there, that's really struggle town. Their forward pack's big, but you get on top of them, and they've Toa Harris is about 45. Yeah, and Fadil Blake just isn't the same player he was now. Those leg injuries have deservedly crippled him. They're last for mine. Yeah, no argument for me. That's one we definitely agreed on. Also agreed upon, Terry. I wanted to get this in. Yeah. Who's number 16? Little brother. St George, Illawarra, whatever they are this weekend, Dragons. Yeah, I think they caught a lot of clubs by surprise last year. Won some games they didn't deserve, and at the back half of the year, got a pretty favourable draw against clubs that just couldn't make the finals anymore. Yeah, completely fair. They did end well, and I think if you take Ben Hunt out of that side, Newtown beat him. Yeah. Ben Hunt's such a magnificent player. I can't speak highly enough of him. You put him in any of the top 6 and they become premiership favourites. And the fact that they kept Aaron Woods, and they've then gone and got Ben Murdoch-Masala, but they didn't want to keep Tarek Sims? Yeah, I have a feeling that Mr. What's-His-Face, the coach, just picks his mates. Hasn't worked for years, and it's not going to work now. Jack Bird, again, doesn't have a position. Jack the Bellin doesn't have a position, and say what you will about him, and I've said plenty. They need him in a position to carry him forward. And they had the worst number 9 in the competition last year in Andrew McCulloch, and they've only gone and got worse by adding Jacob Little to that. Their 5'8" to the future is now stood down. Yep. The guy that wanted to leave the club now gets this opportunity to go and play in the halves. There's not a lot there to like about that Dragons team. There's not, especially with Cody Ramsey's future. And the fact that it's St George, there's not a lot to like about him. No, completely fair. Red B, not for me. Yeah. Look, they got the Figai brothers, twins, I believe it is. Excuse me if I said that wrong. They're quite talented, but, plenty of knock-ons. Ravalawa is the knock-on king. Mm-hmm. Their centres, please, can this be the year that Zach Lomax does something, please? Moses Sully as well. Like, he started the year so well, and then obviously injuries aside, hurt him, but he was looking like every chance to go and get some rep honors in there. I just don't want him to go well. No, I do, jinx, but I can't see that side doing very well, to be totally honest. Maybe I do take that one a bit personally. 15th, I have the Manly Warringah Seagulls. Yes, now, this is where you and I disagree a little bit, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to present a united front. Manly, they fizzled out, and they probably let go of their player of the year last year in Kieran Foran. Yeah, he played very well. He did play really well, but not well enough. And now they're putting Josh Schuster, who I don't think he's going to be a 5'8". No, look, he's got plenty of talent, but I just don't... We don't know until you see it, but my guess is more no than yes. Their best player is in America, getting muscles that are pretty important to the human body stitched together. Look, if Turbo comes back and fires, they can make the top 8. But I'm willing to go on record and say he can't.
No,
DCE's another year older too.
His body is really, really failing. The thing that concerns me a lot about Manly is, in the years gone by, you had your halfback play one side of the field, you had your 5'8" play the other side of the field. That's gone now.
Yep, completely.
Because the way defensive lines are structured and the way that, the rules have tweaked a little bit. So you need your halves going from sides. I can't see Josh Schuster being able to do that every week.
No, DCE struggled with that last year too. Lachlan Croker at 9, I think has worked better, but they've had 2 seasons now to replace him with a genuine 9 and they haven't.
And there were some good 9s off contract.
There was.
Come and take Blake Brayley.
No. I think their biggest mistake, though, came off field because it's no, breaking news again that they're a fractured squad. They need someone to bring them together. And they signed Anthony Seibold, who is most known for taking a Brisbane side that made, a grand final and just destroying it and making them a meme club. Thank you, by the way. But what are you doing?
Who cares?
Fair.
Lastly, to round out the bottom 4. Now, contentious, you and I, on this one.
Couple of arguments.
I probably could have had, looking at this side here, I probably could have had them a little bit lower. I put them at 14th though because I just think there's a bit of talent in there. But then I ask, who's the halfback of the Newcastle Knights?
Again, they've had 2 seasons to replace and they haven't. They had a pretty handy halfback. They killed his confidence and then they rissoled in with the Super League.
This is a side that has gone and thrown all the eggs in one basket and said, if you give us Luke Brooks, we'll give you David Klemmer. And the West Tigers foolishly said no. And they said, okay, well, here's David Klemmer anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for having a chat to us.
Look, I'm a bit higher on Hastings than you are, and I think ultimately he will play 7. I still think he's a 6. A player I don't think is a 6 is Callum Ponga.
Yeah, I forgot that they had Jackson Hastings, and that probably just shows how low I think of him as a halfback. Look, I think he's a great person.
Yeah,
he's great online, but there's something about him. He just can't last at a club.
No, he can't.
Couldn't last at the Roosters. Manly got rid of him. He went to Salford. They couldn't wait to ship him off. Went to Wigan. They couldn't wait to release him. Goes to the Tigers last year.
Yeah, it's not a real good resume. I think he'll find his feet in Newcastle. I think without the Brooks hanging over him, I think it's his team. I just don't think this Ponga thing is going to last very long. He's injured again.
He's got all the talent in the world, Callum Ponga, to make it as a 6. But this, if you have a look at this Knights team now, at the beginning of the year, you have to turn around and say, you ain't making the finals. So don't mess with it. If you're going to put Callum Ponga as your 6 for the entire season, knowing that you've got a lot of salary cap to spend for 2024 to make, the squad better, then he has to be your 6 for the whole year. If you lose by 60 every week, it's the bed that you made.
They might.
Yeah,
it's not.
So they've got to pick and stick with it. The worst thing that they could ever do is get Cronulla to release Lockie Miller, go for Callum Ponga, get smacked the opening couple of weeks, and go, well, he's got to go back to fullback.
Yeah,
he's built himself up. He looks really good.
He does, but he's injured again.
You can't help a calf tear.
No, you can't. But it's always something with Ponga. And I go back to last year. He was made captain. He was offered. He turned down the Dolphins and signed a multi-million-dollar mega extension, and then 2 weeks later he's in the toilet playing silly buggers. This isn't a bloke I'd be building a club around. Talent-wise, absolutely. He walks into most squads. I just don't know if he's shown the maturity. They've got to take the captaincy off him. They've got to put it on Brayley and say, you're the captain. Because their best player and their leader, David Klemmer, walked out of the club. There's talk they want to get rid of Tyson Frizzell, who's next in line. Okay, you don't believe in them? Brayley, your captain. Ponga, just play football.
Yeah, look, Tyson Frizzell is one that I would entertain the swap for Lockie Miller as well, just to have him in and around the squad.
Yeah, good dude, and he's a forward leader.
And he's been at the club before as well, debuted with us, let him retire here as well. I look at this Newcastle squad, I don't know why I have them at 14th. I'm kind of talking myself into 16th now, but that's your bottom 4.
What's done is done. Now, one player that we did discuss off air, and, he's got all the potential in the world, Bradman Best. Is this the year he finally achieves that, or is it Gonski's?
His rookie year, I think he's got the Britain Nakora syndrome. Everyone's waiting for it to happen. It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. He's not one of the elite centres in the game. He burst onto the scene as a teenager. He was big and strong and fast, and now everyone's kind of realised he's one-dimensional. He's got no footwork. Nah. The one shining light for the Newcastle Knights is about to exit and go into Sydney. And that's Dominic Young. And the fact that they hadn't tied him up before they went to the World Cup is absolutely ridiculous. And now, you know, Newcastle, Barry Toohey said today that Newcastle had put around about 400,000 to re-sign him, and clubs are offering 150k more.
I'm going to go on record, Terry, make the first big call of the year. First club to sack their coach, Newcastle.
Hey all, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Rugby League Outlaws, brought to you by Puncture Media, our good friends at Top Sport, onelittlefootyfan.com.au, and the Stubby Club. Don't forget to like and subscribe, give them some love online, make sure you shop all your merchandise. What are you doing, Dan?
Terry, I've just worked it out.
Yep.
There's under 50 days till Rugby League.
Baby.